Beloved ones, I come to you now with the simple and steady truth that has long been the quiet foundation beneath every pulse of life. Love is not merely an emotion to be felt in fleeting moments, it is the fabric of reality itself. To know this is to wake from a dream of separation and to stand, for the first time in many lives, in the clear air of belonging. Allow these words to be an invitation not to believe without your own inner knowing, but to test the possibility within your own life, to practice and to see what shifts when you choose love as your guiding principle above all else. There are times when love seems like a soft ideal, something lovely in poetry but impractical in the marketplaces of daily life. Yet consider for a moment the inner geometry of any world that survives and flourishes, its trust, its willingness to share, its capacity for forgiveness, its creative impulse to build together. These are all manifestations of love in action. When love animates a community, the mechanisms of cooperation and dignity arise as natural consequences. When love is absent, structures may still function for a season, but they erode from within because the connecting tissue that holds a society together is weakened. This is why, at this turning, the first task is not to design better systems apart from our hearts but to learn how to anchor compassion so deeply that it becomes visible in every policy, every household, every classroom, every conversation. Anchoring divine compassion begins in the chamber of the heart. Many seek grand gestures or external validations as proof of spiritual progress, but the true measure is the dance of intention and response in ordinary moments. It is how you answer the ringing phone in which a friend murmurs worry, it is the way you look at a stranger in a grocery aisle and choose recognition over avoidance, it is the pause before a hurried reply when impatience urges you to close the door. Each of these small moments is a brick in the architecture of a loving life. Practice them deliberately. Notice how the inner tone of your day changes when you choose the soft lift of compassion rather than the sharp defense of convenience. Begin each morning with a simple anchoring. Sit quietly for a few breaths and place your hand over your heart. Breathe as if you are breathing through the chest of the earth, drawing in the quiet strength of belonging. In your mind speak a short intention, today I choose to act from compassion. Today I will look for the dignity in every person I meet. Repeat this as many mornings as you can, not as a rote litany but as a tuning of your inner instrument. Over time this practice rewires the way you notice and respond to the world. It will not prevent sorrow or difficulty, but it will change how you meet them, so that your responses become steady and generative rather than reactive and narrowing. Compassion begins with self-honesty. Many who strive to serve others carry within a hidden ledger of self-critique, a belief that they must first be fixed before love can be given. This notion is a barrier. Love cannot be poured from an empty cup, nor can it be withheld until a future moment of perfection. The first compassionate act is to regard yourself with a kindness that recognizes your humanness and your potential. When you forgive yourself, you create the capacity to forgive others. When you listen to your own weariness without contempt, you learn how to listen to the exhaustion in another's voice without condemnation. Practice placing your hand upon your own chest and offering a short phrase of acceptance, "May I be gentle with my own heart." This tiny ritual releases a tension that otherwise tightens the chest and narrows the field of compassion. Anchoring compassion requires not only inward tenderness but also clarity of discernment. Love is not naive. It does not mistake acceptance for approval of harm. To love wisely is to name injustice and to stand against actions that diminish dignity. Yet even in resistance, compassion points to restoration rather than annihilation. When you hold both firmness and mercy, you embody a deeper strength than either false softness or harsh retribution could produce. This is the model of a mature compassion strong enough to protect, wise enough to heal. Communities that wish to make love their operating principle must practice structures that reflect that intention. Begin with listening circles in which each voice is held with equal dignity and interruptions are prevented. In these circles, the first task is not to solve but to witness. Witnessing without quick judgment creates a field where wounds can be voiced and transformation can begin. Teach children the language of feeling and the skill of naming needs. When a child learns to say "I feel lonely" rather than "you made me angry," an opening appears for connection. Institutions can adopt simple policies that prioritize human dignity, for example, conflict resolution processes that focus first on repair and mutual understanding, and only then on sanctions where necessary. A practical architecture for compassion includes daily habits that are accessible to all. Encourage neighbors to share time and skills in mutual aid networks, where those who have more lend what they can to those who have less, without strings attached. Foster apprenticeship and mentorship so knowledge flows across generations. Create public rituals of remembrance and gratitude that bind people to a sense of shared belonging. These are not mere niceties, they are the social neurons that carry the pulse of compassion through the body of a culture. At a personal level, cultivate a practice of presence. Too often, love is spoken of as a grand mission disconnected from the immediate demands of the day. Yet the most radical demonstration of divine compassion is the skill to truly be with another person, not to fix or advise reflexively, but to meet their sorrow, joy, or confusion with your full attention. Presence itself carries healing. When you are fully present, you offer the implicit message, you matter. You are seen. Make presence a discipline. Put away devices in conversations. Practice looking someone in the eye when they speak. Allow silence to be sufficient rather than filling every pause with words. In these small habits, hearts learn again how to trust. The work of anchoring compassion also requires that we soften the architecture of shame that often governs private life. Shame isolates and hides, it moves suffering into secrecy and therefore into cycles of hidden harm. Compassion practices invite shame into the light. When vulnerability is met with kindness, transformation begins. Model this by sharing your own imperfections in appropriate ways, by telling a story of a time when you stumbled and what you learned, rather than projecting an image of flawless righteousness. Such honesty invites others to step out of defensive isolation and to receive the balm of mutual support. Forgiveness is a cornerstone of anchoring divine compassion. Forgiveness does not mean erasing accountability or pretending that harm did not occur. Rather, it releases the grip that pain can hold over one's heart. When you forgive, you reclaim energy bound in resentment and free it for creative action. Teach forgiveness as a practice. First, name the hurt without embellishment. Second, state the boundary needed to prevent further harm. Third, choose to relinquish the story that keeps you chained. When communities practice this pattern, cycles of retaliation slow and pathways for repair open. Compassion applies to large-scale systems as well. Work toward economic models that dissenter hoarding and celebrate distribution. When wealth becomes the primary measure of success, compassion atrophies. Reimagine success as the flourishing of all, not merely a metric of individual accumulation but an index of well-being, mutual reliability, and ecological harmony. Support local enterprises that place human dignity before profit margins. Advocate for public goods libraries, community gardens, child care because these are practical expressions of a society that intends to care for its young and its elders. Political engagement rooted in love does not mean partisan absence, it means forming policies that reflect the dignity of every human life and the interdependence of our shared world. Love as reality also transforms how we meet conflict. Too often conflict is seen only as win or lose. Compassion reframes conflict as opportunity for deeper understanding. Approach disputes with the assumption that each person acts from perceived need. Decode anger as masked fear or hurt, and name it gently. I hear your anger, what is it protecting? This question opens a more constructive dialogue than immediate counterattack. Train mediators in communities to move parties from accusation to need clarification. Support restorative justice models where offenders meet those harmed in guided conversations that prioritize repair over punishment. These processes do not erase consequences, instead, they realign responsibility with healing. Anchoring divine compassion involves recognizing the sacred role of rites and celebration. Love flourishes in gatherings where meaning is ritualized. Create public celebrations of service, days when neighbors share meals and stories, rites of passage that mark the contribution of elders and the initiation of youth into civic life. Rituals make visible the invisible bonds that hold a people together. They create memory and continuity across generations. When love is celebrated, it becomes contagious. The arts are a vehicle through which love finds imaginative expression. Music, painting, dance, storytelling, these are modalities that can reach the heart when argument cannot. Support artists as cultural midwives who translate the unnameable into form. Invite performances in public spaces that tell stories of sacrifice and reconciliation. Encourage educational programs that teach aesthetics alongside literacy, because the soul learns through beauty as much as through facts. When a culture cultivates imagination, it widens the possibility of compassionate solutions that would not otherwise be apparent. Prayer and contemplative practice are central tools for anchoring love in individual life. Whether you name the source or simply sit in silent gratitude, such practices gather scattered energies and focus intention. When you come together with others in simple meditative gatherings, the field that is created magnifies the potency of compassion. Regular communal silence, accompanied by shared intentions for the well-being of neighbors, is a powerful engine of social change that does not depend on rhetoric but on the steady harmonization of hearts. There will be times when despair comes, for old habits of fear are stubborn and institutional inertia is real. In those times, remember that the work of love is cumulative. Each act of kindness, each structural change, each ritual of repair, adds to a reservoir that will be drawn upon in difficult seasons. Encourage one another with stories of resilience. Keep a collective ledger of small good acts so that when doubt arises, you can point to tangible evidence of progress. Teach children the language of interdependence early. When a child learns to say "we share" rather than "I want," the neural pathways of generosity form. When young people participate in community service as a regular part of education, they grow up with the muscle of empathy exercised. Provide opportunities for cross-cultural exchanges so young minds discover that difference is not a threat but a source of enrichment. Education that integrates emotional intelligence with critical thinking produces citizens capable of stewarding a compassionate society. Finally, be patient and fierce in the same breath. Patience honors the long arc of transformation, fierceness protects the vulnerable and moves the slow structures when necessary. Love without resolve becomes sentimentality that cannot withstand pressure. Resolve without tenderness becomes mere power. Combine them. Speak truth boldly, act with courage, and let your actions be guided by tenderness that refuses to be blunted. Beloved, this is not a program of perfection but a call to continue practicing. Divine compassion is a living intelligence that will expand as you inhabit it more fully. It will show you new forms, new policies, new kinds of service that are appropriate to the changing needs of your communities. Stay curious. Keep listening. Allow your mistakes to be teachers, and let your courage be refueled by the simple remembrance of why you chose this path, because love is not an optional accessory of a life well lived, it is the foundation upon which a life of dignity and meaning stands. May your days be lit by the tenderness that honors the small and the grand alike. May your voices be instruments that sing for justice and mercy together. May your hands create and repair, and may your hearts remain open enough to hold grief and joy in equal measure. As you anchor divine compassion in your being and in your communities, you will help to shape a world where love ceases to be only an aspiration and becomes, in the living word of your deeds, the new reality. Go now with my blessing, practice love deliberately, resist cynicism, build structures that reflect care, and celebrate each success. The movement of love is already underway. By your willingness to anchor it, you become one more channel through which it may flow ever more freely.